So as you just said, my man, Zach, there's nothing to talk about because nothing's going on. I mean, the market's super quiet, no volatility. It's pretty much the dullest thing around. And you have to be bored.
Well, what's funny is this is my first day back in the office. I got back yesterday from being gone for 2 weeks with my wife. We had a wonderful 2-week trip. And so this all started while I was gone. And, man, thank God for having good people to work with because, I'm at a place now where we've got 3 traders on staff and 2 analysts. And I didn't freak out while I was gone. Just where you just sit back, and I was so thankful for our staff because, I would have been on an edge because there was a lot going on. But we went into it pretty prepared. I mean, you and I have been talking. We were pretty ready for this. So I think we're slightly positive on the year still. Our gold positions, you and I have been talking a lot about that. Also, another thing, people have heard me go off on the gold miners and everything like that. Are you aware of one of the only things that is completely outside of all the tariffs? The tariffs don't touch it at all.
What?
Gold. Right? So gold isn't tariffed at all either. I think our gold miner stocks market was getting hammered today. I think our gold mining stocks were up about 6.5%. To a new high on the year. And so that's certainly not me bragging at all. That's not what I'm saying. But it goes to why we've been pounding the table saying, guys, you can't just be all tech all the time. The world has changed. Things have transitioned. These things are really stupid cheap. If the world is going to start pulling back and get more competitive, those central banks are going to have to diversify their holdings into gold. Yeah, we held in there really nice. We had a really nice day yesterday. Obviously, everybody did, and we were able to hold on to it again today. And it's just about, not being greedy and not loading up in stupid stuff and just, keeping your head on a swivel.
Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. It's all over the place. The tariffs, you don't know what's going on from one day to the next. It is frustrating for a lot of people. I understand why we're doing this with China. Can we do a better job? If we're going to do it, let's do it. If we're not going to do it, then let's stop pretending. But the other tariffs, I mean, these could have ramifications long term if they were to stay there, but we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I think we've got a really good insight yesterday, and this was frankly what I was expecting Trump to do. I wasn't expecting him to roll out the tariffs as widely as he did on everybody the first go round. But I was expecting him to use that as leverage. And from the people I've been talking to, you'd probably have as many, or you probably have considerably more of those people to talk to than I do. But the minute those tariffs were levied, Dulles just turned into a turnstile for emissaries flying in to meet with Trump, right, and try to get things back online. And I think those places are coming around. There's also a part to it that anytime, whether it's a company, whether it's a country, anytime somebody has been on the dole for a long time, they're not going to be happy about taking it away, right?
No,
and,
God, no.
And so I think, in my mind, what I was watching was Trump coming out, laying the heavy, and then going behind closed doors and saying, hey, guys, you're our trading partners. We've got no interest in creating a trade war with you. This is all about getting maximum leverage on China. We're going to rework it this way. Let's figure it out. And that seems to be what's happening. But and I'm fine with that because the one thing when the tariffs rolled out first, there were several tariffs that went against countries where you're looking at that going, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Why are we tariffing vanilla from Madagascar?
Right. We even had tariffs against an island that was uninhabited.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they went broad and wide, almost to like I don't want to say a clumsy level, but a little bit harder. But I think it's the right approach overall, meaning come in heavier-handed and then walk it back, right? I think that's the right approach at this point. But the consternation regarding China, hey, look, what he's levying on China, it's scary. You're talking about the 2 biggest economies in the world, okay?
Yeah.
Has to happen. Has to happen. Because everybody is acting as if the status quo is something that's worthy of being defended. When the status quo is just as dangerous as the change, then you should probably take a shot at the change, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing is I'm looking at people don't understand. They really don't. I listen to people on TV. I listen to people. They don't understand what China has been doing. And if they had a good understanding of what China has been doing for the last 25 years, they would understand this is a rigged game, and it's really smart. It's really smart. When I say it's really smart, I don't want people to think I love, Z.
No, but he came out today and said it's genius what they've done to us.
Oh, did he say that? Good,
Yeah.
because I agree. And if you don't mind, can I get into this for one second?
Let's do it.
So people need to understand. So China began to liberalize under Deng Xiaoping, right? And he had a much more, he was much more altruistic in the sense that he really admired a lot of the openness of Western economies, and he really wanted to open things up. But he and Xi did not come from the same place.
No, they did not.
So Xi takes over, and he's a Maoist, right? And he came up with a brilliant strategy. Let's go in and play nice with these people. And the way we're going to play nice is we're going to offer them manufacturing that is below their cost of production. So meaning it doesn't matter what they do, they won't be able to match it. And then to sweeten the deal, we're going to add government subsidies in there to subsidize. And what I mean by that is maybe they go to a manufacturer that's making iPhones and they say, we're going to cover 20% of your costs. But you've got to pass that savings on to Apple, right? And people go, well, how can they keep affording to do that? They can afford to do it this way. Because their exports are so much larger than their imports. And remember, they also have a closed capital account. Okay, so by definition, regardless of the crazy amount of money printing they're doing inside of their own country, that money isn't getting out into the international system. So it's not hitting their currency values. If it starts to hit their currency values, they have so much more foreign reserves, dollars, euros, rubles, whatever the case may be. They have so many more flowing in than they have renminbi or yuan flowing out that they can just then take those FX reserves and buy the value of their currency up in the open market, right? And as long as you're not tariffing these goods, they can keep that game up until you have nothing left. And if you go look at the trade deals they have cut with virtually everybody else, find me one that is altruistic and not predatory. Meaning there's this idea that we can play nice with them, and yet we have no evidence that they play nice with anybody, right?
No.
So what are we talking about? And people do not understand how genius that system was. And then on top of it, you could get us to bid against ourselves because they were taking advantage of the inherent greed that can be a good thing in capitalist markets, and they were using it against us. Meaning, why do you think Larry Fink is so loaded up in China, right? Profits, right? Profits. He can make stuff there, he can build stuff there at the cost, and he's getting subsidized by the Chinese government. And so they knew that, the American politicians might freak out, but all the guys with the money, right, the muscle, isn't going to want this virtuous cycle to end because they're making tons of money. And so it was a brilliant strategy to go into a global trading network and take total advantage of it. And one of the reasons they could do it, this is the thing that people don't understand, one of the reasons they could do it is because they're communist, because they have a closed capital account, meaning they don't let capital flow freely. So literally looking at them and acting as if we can play fairly with them on the global stage under this current setup, it is the equivalent to me of looking at the NFL and saying, we're going to allow one team to not get tested for performance-enhancing drugs, and then look back 5 years later and go, it's got to be the greatest GM in NFL coaching history. They've won 5 Super Bowls in a row. And you're like, well, yeah, they're all loaded up on roids, man. That's the one team you're not testing them. And so that's China. China is the New York Giants that don't get tested for HGH and steroids. And then we're all marveled at the fact that they've won, several championships in a row. So and then people acting as if, like I said this earlier, the status quo isn't dangerous. You let the status quo roll on for another 15 years, you're not going to have anything left. You're just not.
Yeah.
And
so
they don't.
Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. We've got to stick with it. People recognize that. There's going to be pain. He panicked yesterday. Let's not pretend that that Trump didn't panic. He did. The bond market, I think it scared a lot of people because he's also got to play the politics of making sure his people get reelected. But we're going to have to we have to do something. And you can't play the panic game. At what point do you say, screw it, all gloves are off, we're going to go for it? And then what does that do for the economy? What does that, because you and I both know we're not bringing back the manufacturing world the way that a lot of people would like to think we're bringing it back. That's just never going to happen.
Not in that way. But what we can do is we can globally diversify the manufacturing, because remember, that's the whole the whole base concept, the whole part that makes capitalism work, right? Is competition.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest issue, is we don't have competition with China, right? We do, but it's a soft competition, meaning we're competing against ourselves, right? There is no scenario under this current regime where we win and they lose, right? Now, there are tons of scenarios where they win and we lose. But until you change that dynamic, and I think the other part of it is, I think he did panic a little bit, but I think he panicked not on the strategy, but how he was implementing it. Meaning, I didn't think he anticipated the tariffs on everybody else being as, I think they probably thought more people would think like me, which was, guys, he's not going to actually institute these tariffs. This is all about leverage to get everybody to come to the table. So I think, from my read on it, I think that's what he was more backing down from. And the reason I say that, Chad, is that's why we were also looking at that market rally yesterday and going, why is everybody so jazzed up? If you look at the changes they made yesterday and then you add in what he did to China yesterday, the tariffs globally went from like 30% to 27%.
Yeah.
Right. So very little change. It was a change on the margin yesterday. And yet look at the market's response. So the issue has always been between us and China. And it's why it sort of confused me how they rolled the tariffs out so wide. And so, like you and I said, it's kind of haphazardly, it looked like. But I think this is one of those things where I think we're going to have to see the way it plays out, because, obviously everybody on the left's going, oh, it's a disaster. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. I think everybody is really underplaying or unaware of the position this has put China in.
Absolutely.
Like, China has a sword of Damocles hanging over their head that they have never had.
Yep.
And it has made life very difficult on Z. It's not a one-shot knockout. China has other cards to play, but what the issue that I think this is going to cause for them is this really inhibits the inflow of dollars into their account, into their country, and they need them. They need them bad. And I don't think they are getting enough. When you consider what's going on in their economy right now, and then you consider what they're getting from other trade partners, I don't think they can survive without access to our markets. I really don't. Not as highly levered as they are and as dependent on foreign currency as they are. So bottom line is this. I do not see any evidence that it is possible to negotiate with China in a meaningful way outside of this. I do not think you will get China to come. Now, China isn't going to say they're sorry and issue a mea culpa and say they were wrong and submit to what Trump wants. So I think that when and if this gets resolved, hopefully, I think it will be done in a way that both Trump and Z will come out saving face, right? Because you're going to have to give Z a way out. And you're going to have to give him a way out that saves face. Or, the China, he's not going to do it. He's not going to admit that he lost to Trump. But I don't think you're going to get a desirable outcome unless you put him in that spot.
What's the outcome even look like? What are we negotiating? That is, we're not negotiating freedoms. We're not negotiating them having an open society. I mean, what kind of negotiations are we really throwing on there? Because as long as our money's still flowing in there, okay, they don't get the tariff money, they don't get some of that stuff. But the reality is, because we're always going to buy more from them, because our dollar's always going to be stronger, because they can do what they do. So what does it look like?
With them, I don't really know, because bottom line is the amount of tariffs you've put on them right now, they can't really overcome those. For the most part, they're just too big. And I think that's where you need to have them in order to get that negotiation done. But what does it look like? What are the concessions we're going to make? I think you have to figure out a way to keep them from being able to subsidize the products they're putting out. And quite honestly, that should be something that is overseen and supervised by something like the World Trade Organization. Problem is China's infiltrated that, right? So it's like the World Chinese Trade Organization. And you're just going to have to get them to pull back, and they're going to be very unwilling to do that. And like I said, I for the people out there that saying this risks kinetic war with China, I agree. But we were risking it already. And if you think these guys had any aspirations, they don't want to share power with us. They don't want to be trade partners with us. They are more than willing to pay financial penalties for those choices. They have no interest in that. This is a long-term game of domination that they believe is binary. One person wins, one person loses. And bottom line is, to win a game like that, you got to play by those rules. You right? And you got to play hardball with them, or they end up taking everything. And I know it's scary, but there's this illusion out there that not doing this is just as safe. It's not. You're running the same risk either side.
Absolutely. Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer. People want to reach out to you and get a second opinion, as they should, and talk to you about what's going on. What do they do?
Yeah, pretty easy. Just go to knowyourriskradio.com or bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, and we'll just walk you through our process and, what we did, no cloak and dagger stuff. Just walk you through how we're at, where we're at this year, and why we're not getting hit. And this is how we manage portfolios, and this is how it looks. And and just do a side-by-side comparison, complete with cost, and give you all the information. And we run a portfolio analysis for you and go, hey, let us know if you want to become a client. If you don't, we wish you all the best of luck. So, just give us a call or reach out at bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com. We're not tough to find.
You're the man, dude. Appreciate it. You have a good one.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chad. Fun as always.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.